when we're evaluating a creative idea, the media team is weighing in on the evaluation of that creative idea and building upon it and thinking through the synergies and how do we make this work through more channels. And so we don't approach creative and media disciplines in silos. It's a complete collaboration between those two teams. Because again, at the end of the day, you want to deliver the right message to the right person at the right time. And that requires that connectivity between media and creative.
You are listening to Power Marketing with Kevin Lee. Kevin and his agency Did It have helped thousands of businesses win through superior marketing, as have his books, articles, speaking engagements, and the E-Marketing Association Power Marketing podcasts. Here's Kevin.
I'm pleased to be joined today by Linda Bethea, who is the head of marketing at Danone, which is not just in the yogurt business. There are lots of different businesses. Thanks so much for joining me. My first question really relates to the Advertising Week New York event that you were at recently, where you talked about Changemakers. What were the highlights of that session?
Hi, Kevin. Thanks for having me. The Ad Week session was a great session that really focused on how do companies drive growth in challenging times. And at Danone, our mission is to bring health through food to as many people as possible. And during our recent tough times with the ongoing pandemic, we saw that consumers had an increased interest in health and wellness and a commitment to healthier habits. And 77% of those consumers say they want to maintain those habits that they kickstarted during the pandemic. So at Danone, our opportunity to drive growth is by helping them stick to those habits, by making healthier food more delicious and accessible. And so, as you mentioned, Danone makes more than just yogurt. We have a broad portfolio of delicious and nutritious food and beverage options to help consumers, meet their health goals. So, for example, if you're looking for a lower sugar option, we have Too Good yogurt, which is made with just 2 grams of sugar. If you're looking for high quality protein, our Oikos Pro yogurt has 20 grams of protein per serving. A lot of consumers are looking to explore a flexitarian lifestyle for health and wellness benefits. And we have a broad portfolio of Silk plant-based beverages that can help them do that. And we're constantly evaluating this portfolio and figuring out how we can continue to deliver against our mission and drive health through food to as many people as possible.
Well, that's a great mission, and you guys obviously. I'm a big fan of several of the brands that you mentioned, and some of them are in my refrigerator right now.
Excellent.
I may not always think of them as healthy, but the reality is they're probably better than a lot of the alternatives. A follow-up question to that is, sort of, how do you sort of maintain sort of the share of wallet within those categories when you've gotten somebody to realize, wow, your brand is in fact better, and you sort of want to get that momentum, right? Because sometimes some people are switchers, and within the retail environment, there's promotional dollars end up flowing around. And so, are there any strategies that marketers should use if they're trying to make sure that they can stay sticky with their consumers?
Yeah, I think it's all about really understanding your brand and what makes you distinct, really driving that differentiation in a consistent way through your marketing efforts. For us, a lot of our brands really go back to purpose and what their role in consumers' lives and in the broader community is. So, for example, on Too Good that I mentioned earlier, yes, it's a great lower sugar yogurt option that tastes great, but also has a bigger mission beyond that. At Too Good, we believe in doing more with less, and we're actually committed to reducing food waste throughout the supply chain. So some of our Too Good products are made with rescued fruit that would otherwise go to landfills and create CO2 emissions. So that's a big way that we're working through our brands in a distinct, ownable positioning to deliver benefits to consumers.
That's really cool. A sort of social impact product that has a purpose behind its delicious flavor.
Exactly. We believe you can do good with Too Good.
There we go. So nobody knows whether 2023 will be a recession or not, but in recessions, some marketing managers and senior executives are more timid about doing anything new or in making decisions. So if the sort of economic realities are shifting around a marketer, what do you recommend they do, like, to sort of deal with that change?
It's a great question, and one that everyone is talking about right now without knowing exactly what's going to happen in 2023. But I think firstly, the most important thing to do is stay the course. Research shows that marketers that continue to invest in their brands during times of recession actually fare better throughout and after that recession. It's critically important to maintain that awareness and equity with consumers throughout. But I think the other thing you need to do is truly understand how an inflationary or recessionary environment will impact consumer sentiment and behavior. I know for us at Danone, we're facing increased food costs and also looking at how consumers' buying power has shifted as a result of economic uncertainty. And so we're really thinking about how do we deliver value in ways beyond price, thinking through things like nutrition, quality ingredients, et cetera, and really flexing our portfolio to deliver across the value spectrum. And one example of how we've done that is within our yogurt category. One of the insights we gleaned during the pandemic was that people were shifting consumption from the on-the-go single-serve yogurt cups to the bigger tubs because they were stuck at home, they were pantry loading, et cetera. And so we've worked hard to shift our mix and produce more options available in that larger size, which delivers a greater value per ounce to the consumer.
Yeah, that's really valid. I think I was one of those people that made that shift. The other thing I started doing more is I started doing more ingredients adding, right? So it's sort of get the big tub of the base and then like layer things in on top, right? And try to keep those layered in additional flavors and or products healthy as well. I don't know if you saw sort of people getting more creative in their use of sort of the tub size products or not.
Absolutely. Yogurt is an extremely versatile product. You can add things to it, or you can use it as an ingredient in recipes.
Right.
So it has a number of different uses, which really expands that occasion and that value it can bring to your life.
So switching gears a bit, a couple of times in your presentation and in earlier conversations that you've talked about digital transformation. And I know different types of companies define digital transformation a little bit differently. So I'm curious how you define digital transformation.
To me, digital transformation simply means leveraging digital technologies to improve your business process or drive growth. So an example of how we're doing that here at Danone is by creating an internal data lake that will enable us to gain more understanding over our data and a specific focus on our media data and our first-party data. And this will help drive improved process and growth for us because we're going to reduce media waste, right? That duplicative reach we're able to eliminate, and we can optimize the impact of our spend. Another example would be our partnership with IBM Watson, which is a great digital technology. We've partnered with them on our Evian brand and really tapped into the data and insights they have around weather and how weather patterns can impact consumer behavior. So we're able to leverage that data and deliver very targeted ads to people who are experiencing a heat wave, for example. And we can deliver an ad reminding them to stay hydrated with Evian during that increase in temperature.
Yeah, those are great examples of digital transformation. And you mentioned sort of the CDP and data lake. Has part of the digital transformation also been an increased sort of direct communication with consumers? Have you really started to ramp up, your I wouldn't call it necessarily one-to-one marketing, but brands were, used to be really separated from their consumers. It's like they never talk to each other directly. Has there been an increase in sort of your ability to sort of have either via social media or other means more direct communication with your consumers?
Not necessarily one-to-one communication. We're more leveraging it to really glean insights about our consumers so we can deliver more targeted communications in the sense that we're developing communications that matter, right? The right message to the right person in the right place at the right time.
Great. Back to the concept of brand purpose. How important do you think it is to I guess to you personally to the Danone brands, and how important should it be to other brand marketers who are perhaps haven't really added or found their purpose yet with regards to positioning their brands?
So brand purpose is at the core of everything we do. A lot of people don't know this, but Danone is one of the largest certified B corporations in the world,
Oh,
which
that's
means
fantastic.
we believe in using business as a force for good. And this actually all started about 50 years ago when our then CEO came up with this trailblazing concept of a dual project. He truly believed that companies should place as much importance on stakeholder or economic value as they do on societal value. So both performance and purpose. And that was the key driver to us becoming a certified B Corp and really using business as a force for good. And so that purpose shows up in everything we do, not just at the corporate level, but at the brand level as well. And so I mentioned earlier, our mission is to deliver health through food to as many people as possible. And all of our brands strive to do that in their own way. So for example, our Silk plant-based portfolio just launched Silk Next Milk, which is a plant-based blend that tastes just like milk, but with 75% less sugar. So that's one way that that brand is living their mission and their purpose. I talked to you earlier about Too Good, which is all about doing more with less. So all of our brands have unique purposes that ladder up to our corporate purpose around delivering health through food.
That's definitely 100% on point. I had learned as a result of my previous WeCare.com for-profit cause marketing company and through Giving Forward that consumers, when it comes down to the tiebreaker between brands, that they're sort of somewhat indifferent between that purpose and the willingness of the brand to give back and have social impact can really be the tiebreaker, right? It can really have the consumer prefer one brand over the other. So I think it's great. It's not always clear, I think, to me as a consumer that all of your brands are part of that B Corp, right? But certainly within the ones that it's a more obvious part of the mission, I think it has changed my behavior, right? So I look forward to seeing the brands continue to grow as more and more people become aware of that purpose-driven focus for the brand.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Consumers are becoming more educated and they really want to leverage their purchasing power to do good. So if given the choice between two brands in the food category that taste great, why not invest in one that is actually committed to improving the lives of people and our planet?
Yeah, one thing that comes up a lot when I speak to CPG brand marketers is the idea of sort of loyal customers versus the switchers. And then if you've got these switchers who are indifferent, there's the idea of, okay, can we engage in competitive conquest, right? So, when you think about moving the needle and having share of wallet or competitive conquest versus category growth, how should marketers allocate their budgets between sort of growing the overall category and then getting a majority share of that perhaps versus sort of fighting over share of wallet?
So at Danone, we believe the best way to drive growth is through penetration. If you think about it, most buyers within a category are light buyers, and they're not going to be at the same place in the purchase cycle as another buyer in the category. So you need to continually be driving penetration to make sure you're reaching as many light buyers as possible at every point in that purchase cycle. So we really focus on driving penetration by increasing mental and physical availability. Mental availability is simply the awareness of salience, right? Are they thinking of your brand in that moment of purchase or consumption? And then physical availability basically means how accessible is your brand when they're making those purchase decisions. And so we really focus on driving that continual reach with as many consumers as possible so that we are top of mind and we're driving that mental availability. And the reason for that is quite simple. If you're thinking about from a purely competitive conquesting standpoint, you would be assuming that somebody's saying, okay, I need a healthy snack this afternoon, and they're going to choose between Oikos or Chobani. But that's not the case. If they're thinking for a healthy snack, their options include snack bars, fruit, a myriad of different things. And if you're just focused on competitive conquesting, you're going to miss out on those potential buyers. So we really focus on driving that continual reach throughout the year.
Yeah, I think that really highlights the fact that it's not just about shelf space, right? And point of purchase is obviously critically important because you need to have all your SKUs there if you're going to be at that final step. But it sounds like you want to be top of mind all the way along the buyer's thought process around what am I going to buy today.
Absolutely. I think the mental and physical availability are equally important and they have to work together. So you want to be available in as many places as possible, but then when they go to those places, you also want to be top of mind.
I wanted to talk a little bit about brand building touch points, right? So obviously there's paid media, which you have a lot of control over. There's earned media, there's owned media. You guys could end up creating a lot of recipes, right, and putting those out there. And then there's a sort of experiential branding when I do go home and create the recipe out of the product. So can one outweigh the other, or is there really sort of a holistic balance there?
I think they're all important, and I think they need to work together to deliver greater impact. And they each play a unique role, right? So paid media can deliver that continual reach that we talked about a little bit ago, whereas you can then leverage your owned media to develop a deeper relationship and deliver more targeted content to those who have opted into your brand. And then earned media can really do a great job of driving buzz and relevancy, right? We're working in an environment that's moving at the speed of culture. And I think the best brands and marketers are ones that have their finger on that culture and can really tap into key cultural moments and drive some earned buzz for their brand.
Yeah, the cultural moment is a perfect segue into sort of my next question, which is really more about sort of influencer marketing and brand placement, and sort of even a somewhat of a return of celebrity spokespeople to break through the ad clutter, because for a lot of the segments of the audience, they tend to, at least digitally, go around with ad blockers turned on, and so you can't reach them that way. And sort of marketers are trying to find ways for alternative ways. It seems like they could maybe even kill the two birds with one stone in being culturally relevant and have their finger on the pulse there, but also potentially tap into the influencers in interesting ways and do brand placements in interesting ways.
Yeah, I mean, celebrities have always been a tool that marketers have at their disposal to leverage. And I think in today's world where we talked about consumers being more educated, they know when they're being marketed to, and they know when you're just paying a celebrity to star in your ad and it doesn't have purpose or credibility beyond that. I still think celebrities can play a role, to your point, in helping break through the clutter, particularly during key cultural moments like the Super Bowl, for example, right? Really crowded stage, you're trying to break through and stand out and make the ad meter. So that would be an example where for us, we would consider leveraging celebrity talent. Our Oikos brand last year for our spot in the big game featured Deion Sanders and his son Shador for our Oikos yogurt brand, and talking about how the protein in the yogurt helped them maintain dad strength. And it was a very natural and fun playfulness between the two of them, you know, competing in these feats of strength between father and son as they used Oikos yogurt for the protein. So that would be, you know, one example of, I think, where celebrity would make sense to cut through in those moments. But I think, again, because consumers are so smart these days, you know, they want more authentic content. And so that's where I think influencers come in if you leverage them the right way. We love to find people that are already using and posting about our brands on social media and then partner with them to develop content because they're true lovers of our brands. They have the experience in how to consume and use our products. And so it's a much more natural fit and relationship and produces much more authentic content.
Yeah, that's a great point about the sort of the authenticity is truly authentic when you find the people who are already fans of the brand, as opposed to trying to impose your brand on a celebrity that might not otherwise necessarily be aware of you. And so I think marketers can learn a lot from sort of looking around and monitoring, brand mentions within the social media ecosystem.
Yep, that's where social listening comes in. And I don't think enough brands do enough of that in really understanding the social conversation and the mentions that are happening, not just for your brand, but within the category and within the cultural conversation, because you can really tap into that to deliver really meaningful content to consumers.
Yeah, that's great advice for anyone who's not doing enough social listening. This is your heads up for next year. Listen about not just your brand, but at the category level, because you may catch a trend early and be able to take advantage of it. Wanted to
Exactly.
go back to the idea of creative, and you talked about the big game creative that you did. And one of the things that's even more true now than ever before is sort of that bad creative can tank a campaign and great creative can take a campaign to the next level, because it's not just did the media buyers do a good job of identifying the audience and finding the right time to get the message in front of the audience, but then the creative needs to sort of bring it across the finish line. And so, um, you know, how do you unify that when sometimes the creative is being done in a different place or it's being done by a different agency, and whose job is it to sort of herd the cats and make sure that the media and creative is sort of are really resonating off of each other?
To me, this is like the age-old chicken or egg question. Which
Right.
should come first, media or creative?
Right.
And I strongly believe in what I call connections planning, that you have to take a holistic view and really partner your media and creative teams together in developing the campaign. And that's
Mhm.
exactly what we do here is we run an integrated agency team, and our media agency and our internal media team is in partnership with our creative agency and internal team every step of the way. And so, for example, when we're evaluating a creative idea, the media team is weighing in on the evaluation of that creative idea and building upon it and thinking through the synergies and how do we make this work through more channels. And so we don't approach creative and media disciplines in silos. It's a complete collaboration between those two teams. Because again, at the end of the day, you want to deliver the right message to the right person at the right time. And that requires that connectivity between media and creative.
Yeah, a great follow-up question. That's great advice for anyone. Back when we were kids, and an ad would be shown on a soap opera or something, the feedback loop of knowing whether that ad was working or not was pretty slow. I mean, it might have to wait for point of sale data to make its way back to whomever was looking at it. And now with digital, you can sometimes have the feedback on whether an ad is resonating or working or engagement is occurring on the ad pretty quickly. Has that changed the sort of integration between the media teams and creative teams? Like, does the feedback get right back to the creative quickly to, hey, what if we tweak it this way? What if we tweak it that way based on what you're seeing?
It depends. Obviously for something like a Super Bowl ad, that's not going to
Right,
happen.
of
But
course.
in general, we believe we measure what we treasure, and we
Right.
do treasure the ability to measure where we can and leverage those insights to improve our campaign. So from a digital standpoint, it's definitely easier to do that and test different messages in different places to see which ones are going to deliver the best results.
Right. What's one piece of advice you'd share with the e-marketing association audience that would help them drive growth within their organization? Are there any sort of silver bullets that people tend to ignore that you think they should execute against?
My advice would be to look for growth in unexpected places or build new capabilities. So one example for that would be here at Danone, our budget's been challenged over the past few years. And our brands want more fuel to drive growth. And so we've had to find creative ways to do that. And we've actually partnered with a licensing agency called Global Icons to start licensing out our brands as a way to generate incremental revenue. Historically, we've licensed other brands to help our growth. So for example, on International Delight, we've had, Reese's flavored International Delight or Cold Stone Creamery. On our Yo Crunch portfolio, we've had Oreo Yo Crunch or M&M's Yo Crunch, but we've never thought about how do we take our iconic brands and license them out to other categories to generate incremental revenue. And so that's a new capability we're building now, which will hopefully drive incremental growth for our brands going forward.
Great. Well, I think the lesson there is that the people should think outside the box when it comes to growth, and sometimes you can flip something up, upside down, right? You're basically saying, "Oh, wait a minute, our brand is so valuable, other people might want it." So that's great. What has you excited for 2023?
Lots of things. I mean, the reason I love marketing so much is that it changes every day. Again, I think The best marketers are ones that have their finger on the pulse of what's happening in culture, and culture is changing more rapidly than ever before, which makes my job extremely challenging, but extremely rewarding. So I'm looking forward to seeing what trends and newsworthy events happen in 2023 and how we make our brands an authentic part of those conversations.
That's great. I'm looking forward to 2023 for a lot of the same reason. And this afternoon, when I head out to the grocery store, there's a couple more silk brands that I need to try that I didn't even know were there. I may have missed them on the shelf. So thanks for putting those on my radar. And thanks so much for joining me for the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Kevin.
Kevin Lee's Power Marketing is available on all your favorite podcast networks. Kevin loves helping businesses excel at marketing. Having marketing challenges? Just like Santa in The Miracle on 34th Street, if Kevin can't help you, he'll know someone who can. Find him on LinkedIn, subscribe, or follow.